Aronian and Kramnik, the two players who are challenging Carlsen for the first place in this tournament, faced off against each other in the 12th round. The game lived up to its reputation with a lot of fireworks happening in the middle game. Finally, we reach this position in which Aronian, with the white pieces, is trying to hold a draw. And I think his task is not so difficult because his king is really active. Okay, he started off in this position with king d6, king d8. I think white's idea is pretty simple. He would go king c5 now, king c6, sorry, it's the same. And the point is, if black goes and defends the pawn with bishop c4, then h6, gh, gh, bishop d3, h7, bishop into h7, king b5, and even if black saves this pawn, it's obviously a draw because this is a wrong colored square. So Kramnik tried to be a little tricky in this position, and he gave up both his queenside pawns but instead went for Aronian's kingside pawns. So Aronian took the pawn, king b5, king e6, king a4, king f5, and now let's assume that you are white in this position and you have around 10 minutes, which is what I think Aronian was left with in this position. I don't exactly know the amount of time, but you don't even need 2 minutes to make a decision over here. Will you play g6 or h6? That's the question. And I think with just some logical thinking, the answer is very clear that h6 is the right move. In the game Aronian played g6, we'll come to it, but h6 threatening to exchange the last pawn, so black is forced to play g6, and after king b5, king into g5. Now it's important to formulate a strategy, but I think for a player like Aronian, it's not such a big deal. You can just imagine that you put this pawn to c4, keep this square under control so that the bishop cannot come here and control this square, and once you do that, you start pushing this pawn. So in practice it would go something like c4, king into h6, a4, g5, a5, and now after g4, a6, bishop h7, a7, bishop e4, c5 with the threat of c6. Black should really think about playing g3 and making a draw, because if he tries to be really clever, maybe he would lose the game after c6, g3, c7, g2, queens, and yes, you can see that the queen would be lost in a skewer after check and check. Okay, so it would be logical to just take a draw here. Okay, so the point is to keep the pawn on c4 and then start pushing the pawn a pawn. Okay, but imagine such a high pressure game and such an important game, and Aronian blunders with g6, and now after king g5, king b5, king into h5, he is too slow, because the final pawn which the black king takes after a4, king g6, he is closer to reaching over here the queen side, and therefore after a5, king f6, a6, bd5, c4, bishop a8. Now the king comes in time, black king comes in time to control the c6 square from here. So after king b6, or another variation could be c5, king e6, c6, king d6, and the pawn is lost. So king b6, king e5, king c7, g5, king b8, bishop e4, king c7, g4, a7, g3, pawn push, bishop a8, king comes here, and after bishop c6, black will just defend with king d5 when he just wins the game. What I would like to stress over here is that such a highly important game was blundered by Aronian. I don't understand how, and now Kramnik has taken over the lead in this tournament because Carlsen lost to Ivanchuk, and now we are facing a situation in which I think Kramnik is the hot favorite to win the tournament.